But you brought up something else that was very interesting to me.
Okay.
You know who else is from Springfield, Missouri?
I do not know, Jen. Please tell us.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, that's right. He went to I don't know if I can call out certain schools. He went to Kickapoo High School, which was the rival high school of Glendale High School, which was the high school where well, actually my brother went to Glendale High School, but yeah, he went to Kickapoo High School. So yeah.
Oh, how funny.
So yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Leave it to one of the biggest Brad Pitt fans.
I'm a huge
I know.
Brad Pitt fan. He's probably the only person I would be starstruck for. But so now I'm starstruck for you.
Well, before we devolve into Brad Pitt fandom. This is the History Buzz. Welcome to the History Buzz, where we talk about history over a couple of drinks and let the conversation wander where it may. I am your host, Scott, here with my wife and historian, Jen.
Hello.
And today we are chatting with Jared from the Daily Bellringer YouTube channel. Welcome, Jared.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. And now before, Jared, we start emptying our glasses or anyone listening, I want to ask our listeners to help us out by leaving us a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or feel free to reach out to us at thehistorybuzz.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcast, Talk with History, where Jen and I dive deeper into our Walk with History videos and give you a behind-the-scenes look at our history-based YouTube journey. Now, today's guest, Jared, is the host of the Daily Bellringer, a YouTube channel that tries to provide videos to help students shift their minds from their previous class or subject to the history lesson of the day. So from what I've seen, these approximately 5-minute videos are the perfect bite-sized history snack to get anyone from thinking about geometry and the Pythagorean theorem to the Roaring '20s or World War I. How you doing today, Jared?
Good. I was going to say, you said we were going to have drinks, and I guess I did not bring anything down here with me. So I should have my big glass of milk here with me, but yeah.
I know. I have my Diet Coke.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's up to everyone. I think maybe one out of our first 3 interviews had something to drink with them, so don't worry about it. But so Jared, can you give us a little bit of background on kind of where you're from, how you kind of grew up and kind of grew into your passion for history, and then kind of how that branched eventually into the Daily Bellringer?
Well, honestly, I got a couple stories here I'll share with you about kind of how I got into history. Actually, it's kind of cool. You're talking about, that my videos are kind of focused on being used in the classroom. And actually here over the past few weeks, it's been really cool because a lot of schools are winding down, which of course my views start going way down when school's out. Mm-hmm. But what's cool too is I have some teachers that have contacted me that want me to visit their classes. And so I've been able to virtually visit classes from Texas to California to Florida, and everything. And so it's really cool to get to connect with students that are, hundreds of miles away from me and everything. So that's been really awesome. Cool. I'm located in central Illinois, and but actually I grew up in southwest Missouri, near Springfield, Missouri, is where I grew up. And I'll give you 2 stories here of kind of how I got into history. Probably one of my most vivid memories of how I got into history was just outside of Springfield, Missouri. There is the Battle of Wilson's Creek. It was August 10th, 1861, one of the very early battles in the war, fighting for control of that border state of Missouri. And Union troops led by General Nathaniel Lyon had marched down from St. Louis to basically secure the southwest part of the state. And so, we have this battle that takes place down there. A lot of the Missouri State Guard and everything fighting against Union troops. Of course, it was just a complete mess because it was so early in the war that neither side really knew what they were doing. But interestingly, Nathaniel Lyon, he gets killed in the battle. He's actually the first general to be killed in the Civil War there at the Battle of Wilson's Creek. But anyway, when I was a kid, my parents took me and one of my best friends out there to Wilson's Creek and basically just dropped us off and told us just go run around for a few hours and we'll be back to pick you up later. And awesome. So, I mean, I of course, we were 10-year-old kids. We loved it that our parents just were giving us the independence to go out there. But absolutely. I remember we went hiking up on Bloody Hill, which is where Nathaniel Lyon was shot down. And we got up there and there was this great big sinkhole. And so, of course, we're 10-year-old boys. What do you think we're going to do? We're like, we jump down in this sinkhole. We start rolling around, running up and down each side for about half an hour. We're there just goofing around in this sinkhole. And so then we come hiking down from Bloody Hill down to the visitor center, and we find the park ranger, and we're like, hey, what's up with that big sinkhole up there on Bloody Hill? And he said, oh, well, that's where they had 40 Union soldiers buried right after the battle. It was a mass grave in this sinkhole.
Oh my gosh.
And I suppose to me that made such an impact on me at 10 years old that here I had been running around and playing in this, what was a mass grave after the battle. And so, that made such an impact on me that then I was like, well, why in the world did these guys go here to fight? Why were they willing to die? Why did they bury them in a mass grave? All that stuff started kind of piquing my interest, about history. So again, I'm like many, many other people, Civil War history is, really what I'm really focused on. And that's, when I teach it in class, my students, I teach 7th and 8th grade American history. They just, I think they roll their eyes because I'll just go on for weeks and weeks and weeks about the Civil War. And, I try to zoom through the Revolution and the other stuff. So that way I can get to the Civil War and spend most of my time on that. Sure. So that's one big reason why I'm into history. But then two, I have an older brother, Jason, he's a bigger history nerd than I am. And he should honestly be teaching a history class, but he doesn't, because he would be phenomenal, because honestly 90% of what I know about history seems like it comes from conversations with him. But when we were growing up, my dad, every time we'd go on vacation, he would take us to some sort of historic site, whether it be like Vicksburg or stopping at Gettysburg or Antietam or, just basically anything that was historic. He would stop and take us there. And my brother and I were talking about this a few years ago, and we're like, why on earth did Dad take us to all these historic sites? Because Dad didn't care about history. He could care less about all this stuff. But yet he took us to these sites, and it got us all interested in history. Well, it dawned on us the reason he did that on vacation was because he was cheap. Because he didn't take us to Disney World. He was like, you know what, I can go to this historic site for free, and I can entertain my kids for a few hours without having to pay anything. So it's honestly, my father's cheapness is kind of what led me to really get into history and really love history so much and everything. So that's how I always tell people I got into history, was kind of, those two stories kind of led me down the path of eventually becoming a history teacher.
How funny is that? It's funny. We were just telling you, we did an interview a couple days ago, and for him, the JD, from the History Underground, for him it was family too, right? For him it was his grandfather and his father. But how funny that it's still family. And I'll be curious to see how our kids end up falling out, whether they love it or hate it, because we drag them everywhere.
They go to all of our
locations.
I always see in your videos, your kids are in the background back there, usually, hanging out while you're recording your videos. So yeah, that's awesome that you're taking your kids there, because I'm sure someday they'll probably look back and be like, remember how fun it was to go to all those sites? And I'm sure when they're in school too, I bet they probably say to the teacher, hey, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah, they would ask about Rosa Parks, and I'm like, we were there. I took you there to where she got on the bus. And they were like, oh, yeah. But you brought up something else that was very interesting to me.
Okay.
You know who else is from Springfield, Missouri?
I do not know, Jen. Please tell us.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, that's right. He went to, I don't know if I can call out certain schools. He went to Kickapoo High School, which was the rival high school of Glendale High School, which was the high school where, actually, my brother went to Glendale High School, but yeah, he went to Kickapoo High School. So yeah.
Oh, how funny.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Leave it to one of the biggest Brad Pitt fans.
I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan. He's probably the only person I would be starstruck for. But so now I'm starstruck for you.
Well, before we devolve into Brad Pitt fandom, I'm gonna
tell me more about the channel. Do you want to say anything about the Daily Bellringer?
So talk to us. So how did all that kind of eventually develop into the Daily Bellringer?
Okay, yeah. So the Daily Bellringer, the way it all started, actually, I told you before, I'm a teacher. I've taught for, now I forget how many years. It's like 15, 16 years I've been teaching. But a few years ago, I was asked to become an instructional coach. My district kind of recognized, they were like, hey, here's one of our better teachers. Why don't we have him go and help other teachers out to become better teachers? And so I went to be an instructional coach. Well, when I went to do that, they didn't really have anybody to fill in American history. And so they just said, well, here's an English teacher. Let's just have her do it. And so I had an English teacher that I worked with, and she was just completely distraught, crying because she was like, I've taught English for 20 years and here they are putting me into an American history class, which again, I have a problem with that in education, that we throw people just into whatever subject area just because they have a teaching degree. But anyway, she was so upset about it. And I started thinking to myself, well, what could I do to help her out? And so I was like, what if I made just little 5-minute videos with a few questions with them that she could maybe just show at the beginning of her class to just get the basics. And then she could maybe go on with a reading or something else that related to that topic. And so initially I just started making the videos just for one teacher in my school district. And so once I made a couple dozen videos, then my wife kind of said to me, it was like, well, why are you making them just for this one teacher? Why don't you just put it out there for everybody to see? Sure. And so that's awesome. When I started putting it out there. And of course, if you see some of my very early videos, they're nowhere close to like what I do now with my videos, but it's just kind of, just like I'm sure you found with your videos, it just kind of keeps on growing and you feel like you keep getting better at it and you keep finding new ways to do it. And that's kind of how it all kind of got rolling and everything. And of course, once I started putting them out there, like I said, now it's like I have schools in Guam and in South Korea that have contacted me, that are using some of the stuff in their classes. And so, I mean, the whole focus of my channel, it's not to get every single detail of all these events. I know you guys do a great job of going deep into the topics and sharing a lot of stuff. But my videos, I kind of look at them as being, this is just simply to kind of tee up the ball for the teacher then to hit it out of the park, that they can, give them the basics and then follow it up with like, okay, here's a primary source reading that goes along with it. Or we're going to start working on this little activity where you're, role playing or something after they watch the video. So that's really the main goal of my videos. They're not to cover everything. They're just to give the basics and everything of a topic. Yeah.
And when you had reached out, because we actually got connected to you for the listeners here, right? Mm-hmm. So you actually had reached out to us saying, hey, I'd love to do an interview with you. This is my channel, and kind of some other resources, right? Trying to kind of push some other history resources and stuff like that out there. And I looked at your channel and we kind of emailed back and forth. I was like, what a cool idea. Like I think that's such a great idea to like quick bite-sized history. Yes. And I love the concept of like, it is tough for students to kind of shift that brain set. And so if they can sit down and kind of, like you said, either as they're coming into class, you push play on the video, or the first 5 minutes, it kind of gets them into that mind frame. Mm-hmm. So I love that.
Yes.
And I know I'm awesome. Speaking to you as, I don't know if you guys have ever taught any classes or anything, but like when you're working, especially with like junior high age kids, it's like you really need to have a set routine that you do every day that kind of gets them comfortable when they come into the classroom. And I feel like my videos are kind of that little routine. You could just simply put one of those on right when they come in the room. They know they need to answer the questions, and then it just kind of gets everything rolling for your class. So that's honestly awesome. Kind of, what the goal is of the channel and everything.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And a quick congratulations to you before we move on. You just crossed 10,000 subscribers, I believe.
Yeah. My kids at school, they were saying they wanted me to shave my beard or something like when I hit 10,000. I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Not going to happen. Well, I saw that. I was scouting your channel a little bit earlier today, and I saw that. And congratulations, man. We're striving to get there. And we'll maybe we'll do a little something once we get closer to that mark. So
it's a slow process, but yeah.
Yep.
That's what we keep saying. It's you have to be in for the marathon.
Yeah.
It's not a sprint.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm sorry if I'm changing topics here, but the other day I was watching a talk by there's a guy I follow named Lou Mongello, who's like a big like Disney World like historian, but he has some great stuff about like podcasting and social media that he has as well. And he brought up the point that I think you're kind of in the same boat as I am. It's like this is something that you really love to do, and it's like, does it really matter necessarily that you have 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers? As long as, if you just have 2 people out there that are watching consistently, it makes it all worth it. That you're just like, you're sharing what you're passionate about. And so you just need to stay passionate about what you're doing. And, for me personally, 100%. I found that, these videos are just something that I get really passionate about, that I'm willing to get up, at 4 a.m. so I can get them done before I go to work and, things like that. So, so I'm sure you guys are kind of in that same boat, that it's something you're passionate about and you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, it's something we found we could really do together.
Yeah.
And that's, because I think I've told you before, Jared, like I do the information and the topics, but Scott does all the production.
Yeah.
So together we're the team. So that's what makes it great. It's a real family thing for us.
Yeah.
So.
I joke with folks, right. And to anybody that doesn't know us is, I'm not really a huge history buff myself. I'm just not, right? But I've learned to enjoy it and doing these things, and I enjoy the production side of it. And so I joke with Jen is that we finally found something after 15 years that we enjoy doing together. So yeah, it's a ton of fun, and I can tell you're doing it for you have the heart to do it for other people, and I think that'll give you some longevity. So let's shift into kind of our first real segment here. And so what I like to do is we do this is just kind of for fun, but it leads into a historical topic. Is we do a word association game.